Good evening. What did the president know and when did he know it? That was the question Senator Howard Baker famously asked about Richard Nixon during Watergate. Tonight, keeping him honest, the question surfaces again. What did the president know and when did he know it about buying the silence and recent legal action to enforce that silence of a porn star alleging an extramarital affair in the run-up to the election? And despite how sordid that may sound, this is not merely history repeating itself as farce. It's not just the non-disclosure or hush agreement that Stormy Daniels is now suing to declare void, and you'll hear from her attorney in just a moment. Nor is this just about the affair that she says took place 12 years ago, nor the name David Dennison in the non-disclosure agreement her lawyer says is an alias for President Trump. It's not even the suggestion in the lawsuit that Daniels, who is Peggy Peterson in the non-disclosure agreement, and Stephanie Clifford off camera may have compromising photos or texts from the man who was, when she signed the hush agreement, just days away from being elected president. As fascinating or disturbing as all of that may be, this is serious for many reasons, especially because the White House is not telling the truth about what the president knows and when he knew it, about the $130,000 his attorney, Michael Cohen, arranged to pay Daniels. Listen to Sarah Sanders at the White House press briefing today and pay close attention to how she answered several key questions from CNN's Jeff Zeleny.
You've said repeatedly that we've addressed our feelings on that situation in regards to the Stormy Daniels payment, but specifically, can I ask, did the president approve of the payment that was made in October of 2016 by his longtime lawyer and advisor, Michael Cohen?
Look, the president has addressed these directly and made very well clear that none of these allegations are true. This case has already been won in arbitration, and anything beyond that, I would refer you to the president's outside counsel.
When did the president address specifically the cash payment that was made in October of 2016?
The president has denied the allegations against him. And again, this case has already been won in arbitration. Anything beyond that, I would refer you to outside counsel.
Did he know about that payment at the time, though?
I've addressed this as far as I can go.
But that payment, did he know about the payment at the time?
Not that I'm aware of. And again, anything beyond what I've already given you, I would refer you to the president's outside counsel. Steve?
Michael Cohen about that, since this has become a news story this week. Has he talked to Michael Cohen about it? If I can just ask one more thing.
I'm sorry?
Has he talked to Michael Cohen about that this week since this has become news?
I'm not sure.
So did you hear that? She's saying there is no case and also that it's been won in arbitration. Again, in a moment, Stormy Daniels' attorney, who says nobody won anything, and that is far from all he says. He says the arbitration is bogus because the non-disclosure agreement is bogus because David Dennison, allegedly the president, never signed it. He also calls it implausible that this entire NDA was negotiated allegedly on candidate Trump's behalf in the waning days of the presidential campaign without Donald Trump even knowing about it. Sarah Sanders also said in so many words that this is old news, that the president and the White House have addressed this already. She said the president has addressed this directly. That's a quote, addressed this directly. But keep it honest, that is simply flat out not true. No tweets at all from the President Trump since the Wall Street Journal broke the story back in January. No answers from him to questions from reporters. The only response up until now, the only one, has been this non-answer on February 22nd by spokesman Raj Shah, not the president, but the spokesman.
Last week, the president's personal lawyer acknowledged giving a $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels. Is the president aware that his lawyer paid that kind of money to a porn star to buy her silence? Does he approve of that?
I haven't asked him about it, but that matter has been asked and answered in the past.
Not since he acknowledged this. Yeah. He acknowledged this last week. This is the first time we've had a chance to ask about it. So can you go back and we find out if the president approves of the fact?
Yeah, I haven't asked him about that.
Will you ask him about that?
I haven't asked him about it.
But will you ask him about it, Rob?
I'll get back to you.
Well, he never did. And again, the president has not addressed this directly, not once. In a moment, we'll talk to Stormy Daniels' attorney. He joins me to answer as many of the outstanding questions as we can get to. But first, there have been a lot of developments in this story just since last night. Here's CNN senior investigative correspondent Drew Griffin on where we are now.
The lawsuit in explicit detail leaves no doubt Stormy Daniels, whose real name is Stephanie Clifford, says she had an affair with the president. Ms. Clifford began an intimate relationship with Mr. Trump in the summer of 2006 in Lake Tahoe, the lawsuit claims, and that in October 2016, Mr. Trump, with the assistance of his attorney, Mr. Cohen, aggressively sought to silence Ms. Clifford as part of an effort to avoid her telling the truth, thus helping to ensure he won the presidential election. In exchange, Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, wired Daniels $130,000, and the arrangement has, so far, prohibited Daniels from giving any details, leading to a series of bizarre talk show appearances like this.
Did you have a sexual relationship with Donald Trump?
Clifford's lawyer included this so-called hush agreement in the lawsuit, saying it was written by Michael Cohen. It refers to Donald Trump under an alias, David Dennison, and Clifford under the name Peggy Peterson. According to the hush agreement, Stephanie Clifford came into possession of certain confidential information pertaining to DD, Trump's alias, which includes information, certain still images, and/or text messages. Michael Cohen goes on to write, included in those are images Donald Trump previously presented to his counsel to exist, i.e., text messages between PP and DD. In other words, Trump told his personal attorney about communications he was having with a porn actress.
You can't say whether you have a non-disclosure agreement, but if you didn't have a non-disclosure agreement, you most certainly could say, I don't have a non-disclosure agreement. Yes?
You're so smart, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Also new and potentially damning if true is what happened little more than a week ago. The president's attorney tried yet again to silence Clifford on or about February 27, 2018. Mr. Trump's attorney, Mr. Cohen, surreptitiously initiated a bogus arbitration proceeding against Ms. Clifford in Los Angeles, the lawsuit says, in an attempt to intimidate Ms. Clifford into silence and shut her up. But Clifford is now eager to talk and explain why she claims she was coerced into signing a false statement that the affair didn't happen. According to the lawsuit, any breach of the contract would mean Clifford would be obligated to pay the sum of $1 million. President Trump, through his attorney Michael Cohen, has denied the affair took place. Cohen says Mr. Trump did not know about the payment he made to Ms. Clifford to keep quiet. All of that now under question by this lawsuit. Drew Griffin, CNN, Atlanta.
Good evening tonight. Thanks for joining us. Only on this program, Stormy Daniels' attorney speaking out with what he says is one more piece of evidence potentially tying the president to a payoff for porn star Stormy Daniels. That's in addition to the evidence he produced this morning. But before we go any further, just a quick reminder of something we said on the program last night. This is about the payoff, not the alleged affair. We're following the money and who knew about it. Marital infidelity, if it happened, is certainly nothing new, not for millions of Americans, not for presidents, and not for Donald Trump, whose love life has been tabloid fodder, some of which he stoked himself as publicist John Miller or John Barron for decades. It's not new for Washington, D.C. either. R's do it, D's do it, even educated fleas do it. What most Republicans, Democrats, or fleas for that matter, do not do is pay to hush it up. So we begin tonight keeping them honest by continuing to follow the money, or trying to at least, and examining the claims made by President Trump's go-to fix-it guy, Michael Cohen, personal attorney to the president, and before that to Donald Trump candidate and private citizen. Michael Cohen, Trump Organization employee. Now remember, when the story broke, Attorney Cohen put out the following statement, quote, neither the Trump Organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction with Ms. Clifford, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, either directly or indirectly. The payment to Ms. Clifford was lawful and was not a campaign contribution or a campaign expenditure by anyone. $130,000, 11 days before the election, in exchange for Stormy Daniels' silence about the affair she says she had with Donald Trump back in 2006. $130,000 of his own money, Cohen claims, which today he said he raised from a home equity credit line. Nothing to do with the Trump Organization, nothing he told the candidate about, no money from Trump or the campaign, just his own money from his own pocket. Here's how CNN Chief Legal Analyst Jeffrey Toobin assessed those claims.
Lawyers don't do that. They don't do that with their own money. It's not ethical. It's not proper to do that without talking to the client, and it also just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's one thing if he just was such a billionaire, he had $130,000 sitting around, but the idea that he goes into a home equity line and then writes the check and just does it out of the goodness of his heart, it's just unbelievable.
Also potentially not ethical, Michael Cohen saying that he entered into an agreement on his client's behalf, but claims not to have actually informed his client about it at all. And keeping him honest, even if everything Michael Cohen claims is true, that he did this out of loyalty to Donald Trump with borrowed money using his own home as collateral, how do you explain the Wall Street Journal report that he'd been complaining to friends about not being reimbursed? The question, of course, is reimbursed for what, by whom? Cohen sent a two-word statement to the Journal on their story, fake news, he said. This morning, though, in connection with the lawsuit to invalidate the non-disclosure agreement Stormy Daniels signed, her attorney produced emails to and from Michael Cohen using his Trump Organization address. What they show are a bank sending Michael Cohen at his Trump Organization email address this note saying, "The funds have been deposited into your checking account." And Michael Cohen forwarding that message to Stormy Daniels' attorney, but forwarding it from a personal email account in an email that appears to include the corporate email account the bank originally sent their confirmation to. All of this to handle the payoff on candidate Trump's behalf just 11 days before the election. So the question, did Donald Trump know about the business Michael Cohen was conducting in an effort to bury a potentially damaging late October surprise? And does it violate campaign finance or any other laws? Now, we don't know tonight, nor is the White House saying much. Here's Press Secretary Sarah Sanders today.
We've addressed this extensively, and I don't have anything else to add.
Now, if that sounds familiar, there's very good reason why. Here she is on Wednesday.
Look, the president has addressed these directly and made very well clear that none of these allegations are true.
So keep them honest. The one thing neither she nor the president nor anyone at the White House has done is address the allegations either directly or extensively. In fact, it's the one thing they have not done.